Alright guys, today we're going to be continuing the video of the internet's darkest corners 5. Last video, we reacted to it and we stopped on the hide and seek one where the guy got offed playing hide and seek. Okay, and today we're going to be continuing reacting
As
to
evidenced by the previous case and several others discussed throughout the series, live streams are often a hotbed for disturbing moments online. And when researching Ernest's final stream, I came across yet another example of just how dark things can get when the cameras go live.
Okay. Naika Venom. Okay.
It happened on January 22nd, 2017, when a 14-year-old girl named Naika Venant went on Facebook Live with the caption,
Naika Venom. I don't want to
In the stream, Naika discussed how difficult life had been. Throughout the years, she had been placed in and out of countless foster homes, where her treatment ranged from poor to straight up abusive, with this constant mistreatment leading her to just want it to be over already. And based on the title of the stream, it was clear what her intentions were going to be. As the livestream progressed, hundreds of people flooded into the video to see what exactly was going on, as word quickly spread that something horrible was about to happen, though you wouldn't know it by looking at the chat. According to many watching, those in the comments had no sympathy for the girl, as many actually mocked her, calling her names, and even commented laughing emojis, as she desperately tried to open up, with those same commenters viewing this not as a cry for help, but as a cry for attention, outright pushing her to carry on with these intentions. And tragically, she did, all while the camera remained rolling. However, even after she followed through with this, the behavior of her chats didn't stop. Whether they assumed it was fake or just didn't care either way, the hateful barrage of insults actually got even more vile once she had obviously passed away. And this went past just words, as people who knew her actually began making parody videos of the girl, replicating the position she was dead in, all while her livestream continued running. It would take over an hour before police would finally be called and retrieve her body, with the stream being shut down by Facebook shortly before. It was an awful situation all around. But what I found most saddening about this was her final reason for doing what she did, as she stated simply that she just wanted to be with her real mother, who she loved so dearly. And this was something that seemed to be the plan all along, as her mother, Gina Alexis, claimed that she too desperately wanted to be reunited with her daughter. And following her daughter's highly publicized death, Gina actually came forward at a news conference to discuss the tragedy.
Her biological mother broke down while speaking about her daughter's death. She dreamed of one day being reunited permanently.
Wow, man.
I have trusted Florida people to care for my baby.
Where she blamed the entire foster care system for everything that had happened, believing that they didn't do a good enough job of keeping her daughter safe, and they failed to try and reunite her with Naika. Because of the obvious emotion involved and the overall shocking nature of this case, the news report would quickly go viral, leading to widespread support for the grieving mother. However, this also caused some people to look a bit deeper into what exactly led up to this livestream, for which one piece of information was brought to light that somehow made this case even more upsetting. On the day that Naika's life came to an end, it was revealed that her mother was actually in the stream watching before and after it happened, seeing her own daughter having this mental breakdown, as well as seeing all those people in the chat mocking her, which made people feel even more sorry for Gina, as her plight was unimaginable. Though this wasn't the only revelation to come forward, as it was soon realized by the investigators looking into Naika's case that Gina had not only witnessed all of these people laughing at her daughter and egging her into ending her life, but she had also joined them as well. Hashtag ADHD games played, you sad little DCF custody. That's why you are where you're at. For this dumb shit and more, you keep crying wolf. You dead, you will get buried, life goes on after that doesn't listen to their parents, trying to be grown, seeking boys and girls' attention instead of her books. In a live stream where one of the last things Naika ever said was that she desperately wanted to be reunited with her mother, that same mother was not only watching, but actively pushing her to follow through on her plans, leaving this comment where she outright says that it doesn't matter if you live or die, life goes on. And it got even worse. The media also discovered that the reason Naika had been removed from her custody to begin with was because Gina had beaten her 30+ times with a belt when she was only 6 years old. On top of this, Gina often texted Naika saying that she wanted nothing to do with her, despite the young girl frequently reaching out and begging to be part of her life. Eventually, Gina would tell Naika's caseworker that, "The girl is y'all's problem, I'm done with the games," before sending Naika middle finger emojis when all she did was ask to see her brother. And this is all amongst other things that are far more horrendous that I really don't want to get into. And yet, after Naika's death, Gina had the audacity to go on television in an attempt to garner sympathy for a death that she clearly contributed to, saying that all she wanted was to be the girl's mother, despite rejecting her at every turn. And honestly, this is where I thought this entire story would come to an end, until I noticed something strange when I was editing this video. Naika's Facebook page is still active. It's no longer posting anything original, but instead, the account is consistently reposting content from another page, a page run by Gina. After Naika's death, Gina seemingly seized control of the young girl's Facebook account, where she now posts her own content, which includes her attempting to defend the fact that she gave up on Naika.
Tell me what mother would accept a 13 going on 14-year-old in and out of detention centers, going to jail or getting arrested while in foster care?
As well as her responding to those who blamed her for her daughter's death.
People be like, you heard the rumors going around about you? And I did. But they forgot to tell you one thing. That I don't give a fuck. Huh? What's
Damn,
my name?
bro, that's
my first
so...
name is very much. My last name is Unbob.
And even some posts where she's promoting her podcast, as it seems that after all this, Gina's actually trying to carve out some sort of career as an influencer, as she posts videos garnering sympathy for the loss of her daughter, along with giving out parenting advice.
Like, there's so much stuff that parents need to do for their child that they're not motherfucking doing. They're not paying attention because they're taking the easy way out.
With all this making it even more obvious that Gina has little to no remorse for what she did.
Bro, are you serious, bro? Like,
My son was
oh
diagnosed
my. Alright, this is a new case called Masha Chapter 4, alright?
On the 11th of June, 2009, a young man named Eugene Latta took to an urban exploration forum and wrote in broken English,
Bro, I don't like
"Hello,
exploration,
I'd like to tell
bro.
you about Odessa Catacombs. Odessa is not far from the capital
Catacombs,
of
I've heard that
Ukraine.
word before, bro.
Under
I
Odessa
think I've heard about the
consists the
catacombs
biggest
before.
catacombs in the world. Their total length is more than 2,500 kilometers, so these catacombs are much bigger than the Paris catacombs. During World War II, a lot of citizens were hiding in the catacombs. A lot of them used to live there for a year and more, so even today it is possible to find weapons, equipment, and even dead bodies.
Oh, okay.
Every year a lot of explorers get lost and even die there.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't explore things
His
like
post
that.
was accompanied by a series of photographs from the underground labyrinth, which stretched over
Okay.
1,500 miles, its paths winding aimlessly
Cool, bro. I
deep
don't
below
lie.
the surface
I
of
don't
the
lie, it
earth.
looks pretty cool.
The structure was mainly the result of limestone mining many years ago, though despite this, it was never properly mapped, and was, conversely, not often explored, essentially being a pitch-black maze to nowhere. Given that the area wasn't well known back in 2009, the post was met with amazement. Fellow urban explorers applauded the location and the photographs that
Absolutely
Latta had
amazing
taken,
spot,
wanting to see
Eugene.
even more.
Beautiful,
And since
I
he
can't
was a
lie, that
native of
looks
the
super
area,
fluff and awesome.
Latta delivered.
Okay. Super
Thanks
awesome.
to all. If you want, I can add more photos. As I said earlier, a lot of people get lost and even die under Odessa.
photo will shock
Maybe
you.
this photo will shock you.
Okay. Oh.
It's the dead body of a 19-year-old girl who had gotten lost in the maze. Though it's censored here, the image shows 3 young boys staring blankly at the camera as they stand behind a badly
Just find a
decomposed body.
dead body and then just like, alright, bro, let's flick up,
Understandably,
bro.
this image caused a lot of intrigue on the forum as other users began to press for more information. And sure enough, it was a story that Latta knew well.
3, 2, 1. Happy New Year, everybody! Happy 2005!
It was New Year's Eve, the final day of 2004, when a group of teenagers made their way down into the catacombs to begin their celebration. This
Okay.
wasn't super uncommon at the time, as
Celebration?
many of the entrances
Oh.
to this labyrinth were very easily accessible. This
Yeah,
one in
okay.
particular just so happened to be located directly next to the public school, School 56,
Bro, are you
and had just
serious?
been left wide open, making it the perfect place for friends to sneak a few drinks. As the group began to grow more intoxicated, one of the girls
Okay.
wandered off in search of a place to relieve
Very
herself.
intoxicated,
However, she
okay.
apparently took one too many
Could we go
turns
take a little
and soon
pee-pee,
found
okay?
herself completely alone.
Uh-oh,
She
and
cried
she's
out,
lost.
but the tunnels were just too complicated.
Oh no.
Each step she took led her more and more into obscurity.
Oh, she
Her
should have
friends tried
started
to find her,
screaming.
or maybe they didn't, we really don't know. But in their drunken state, they left the tunnels without their friend, and never went back to find her.
Damn, that sucks. How
If
you
she
not
did
go
have a
find her?
flashlight, it wouldn't have lasted long, and for days she likely wandered deliriously through that pitch-black maze, until after what was likely at least 3 awful days, she passed away. with her body being found approximately 3 miles away from the nearest exit.
Oh!
And looking at one of the only attempted maps of this tunnel system,
3 miles? Oh, that's a
never stood a
map.
chance.
Yeah, no, hell no.
Perhaps it was dehydration or hypothermia that killed her, but according to some, based on the photo, the corpse
Hypothermia?
appears to
It's
have
cold?
its skull caved in, implying that in a desperate attempt to end her anguish, she may have bashed her head against the wall until she passed away.
Damn. Ooh.
Her name was Masha,
Masha.
and she was only 19 years old.
Damn, that's sad, bro. Why would you...
3
So
long
drunk,
months later, in April of
so
2005,
young.
Lata and his group would stumble across the body, immediately reporting their findings to the police. Though law
Dang,
enforcement
bro.
refused to even try and venture down there in order to retrieve her, as they knew just how dangerous and unmapped this environment was. It would take 2 long years for her body to be recovered, thanks to a
2
friend
years?
of Lata writing a strongly worded letter to the government that included a photo of Masha's body. The story is unimaginable. To be trapped in a place like this with no means of escaping, it has to be the absolute worst way to go. And because of the gruesome nature of the story and the photograph, it spread all throughout the online world, where it became a legendary internet mystery, as even with the added context, many were still left with pressing questions. Were Masha's friends involved in some way with her death? Had they
Dang,
abandoned
bro.
her there on purpose? And did Lata know more than he claimed? But as it turns out, there was one far more pressing question that needed to be answered. In 2015, a full decade after this photo was taken, a journalist named Mike Pearl had picked up the case with the hopes of writing a Halloween article for Vice. And in his research, he made a rather unusual discovery, as according to him, Masha seemingly didn't exist. Pearl was never able to find any verifiable proof that a girl named Masha had ever gone missing in that area. He was also not able to find any death records of anyone by that name either, or even any reports of a body being pulled from the catacombs during this time frame. Something just wasn't adding up, and it got stranger from here. Sometime after the photograph began making its rounds, one of the most prominent explorers of the Odessa catacombs put out a statement on his own website in regards to Masha, which read, "Besides the original photographer, there isn't one person, civilian or law enforcement, that can confirm the story. We believe it is just a practical joke and the corpse is fake." Following this revelation, Pearl was able to track down Lata, who was unable to recount where the body was roughly seen, or even how to get in touch with the other people shown in this photo, none of whom had ever come forward to back his testimony, which makes the credibility of Lata and his story of Masha incredibly shaky at best. However, this is where the crux of the mystery stands today. When looking at these photos, one thing is apparent to me and essentially everyone else who has seen them. The corpse shown seems very real, and matches the decay of the bodies found in similar environments, with that one prominent Odessa explorer eventually deleting his statement at some point over the years, leaving the general consensus that this is in fact a real corpse. But if the story of Masha isn't true, then who is this? Well, we have no idea. It's entirely a mystery. But the reality of the situation is that bodies being found down in these catacombs isn't totally uncommon. Over the years, many explorers have gotten lost down there and suffered the exact same fate as the story of Masha. But on top of this, these tunnels have also been used by murderers as a dumping ground for their victims' bodies, with either one of these scenarios being possible in this case. Though the frustrating part is that we may never actually know who this person was or how they died, as I and many others have doubts that this body was ever actually recovered, just simply due to lack of public information and news reports about it. And instead, the reality is that this corpse is probably still down there somewhere, and has simply been lost to time, as sections of the catacombs have been known to flood and cave in, sealing them off from the outside world forever. So for now, and potentially the rest of time, the story of Masha will remain an internet mystery.
Wow. Chapter 5, Faces. This is the last one of the video, and there's only 3 left. Okay, this is the last one.
It's September 1985. A hunter trudges through the wooded terrain of Christie Creek, Montana, on the trail of something big. He had been hunting a large black bear and managed to land a single shot, causing the animal to take off, leaving behind a trail of blood.
Oh no,
he followed this trail
blood
all throughout the remote region before stumbling across a shallow ditch, where he would find a body. Though not the body of the bear he had just shot, and rather, the body of a woman, reduced to bone. The remains were quickly sent off for forensic analysis, though very little could be determined other than the fact that she was a young woman. and that she had been murdered, as they found 2 bullet holes in her skull.
Oh,
With there being
damn.
essentially no other information to go off of, a special team at the FBI started creating a composite of what this woman may have looked like.
Yo, I'm so
This
tired,
was
bro.
the result.
Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, what?
This was their first attempt at depicting Miss Jane Doe, who they would later dub Christy Crystal Creek, though it wouldn't be their last. The uncanniness of these depictions is undeniable.
Yeah, bro, it looks really...
And recently, I've fallen down this
okay.
rabbit hole of disturbing police sketches and recreations, as though these can often be very
Disturbing,
helpful
very.
and do lead to legitimately good results. There are often times where they appear almost non-human,
Non-human.
with many examples like Christie's being shared
Fake.
online on the FBI's website, in order to enlist the public's help in identifying these victims, with one of the more notorious examples coming decades later, in 2014. The discovery was made on June 5th of that year, when a group of highway workers were mowing grass in the town of Geneva, Wisconsin, when they noticed a pair of strange-smelling suitcases. Inside them were 2 bodies belonging to 2 women, both in various stages of decomposition, and both appearing to have been strangled to death. One would quickly be identified as
Laura
37-year-old Laura Simonson, while the other was in
My
much
bad.
worse shape, and distinguishing her facial features proved extremely difficult. But this didn't stop them from trying. This is one of the more infamous examples out there due to just how
Okay.
unnatural it appears, with the face of this woman being turned into a meme and even being used in a video game.
Damn, really? A video game?
But to me, there's one example that
Nice.
I've
Good
never
job,
been
guys.
able to shake, as the entire story and its recreation gives me such an uneasy feeling. The discovery was made all the way back in April of 1977, when a couple in Alberta, Canada had returned to their often abandoned cabin in order to empty the septic tank, only to find a body floating inside. The body was in brutal shape and showed signs of extreme torture, as the man had been beaten, mutilated, burned with cigarettes, and even shot multiple times. And due to the condition of the body,
goodness,
it was
bro.
impossible to identify him, though regardless,
Yeah,
a
wow.
recreation was made, and using a computer model of the man's skull, they slowly pieced him together.
Alright, let's see. Don't be so uncanny. Come on. Okay, doesn't really look like a person. Okay. Oh, jeez. His eyeballs. Okay. Looks pretty creepy, but normal-ish. That's it, really. No hair, nothing. Ah, that's got the chills. What the heck
He
is
would later
that,
be dubbed
bro?
Septic Tank Sam.
Septic
There's
tank
something
Sam.
so depressing about these composites, as
Yeah,
these are
some
real people
nice
with real
cheekbones.
stories and real names, that have been reduced to these horrifying images and tacky nicknames. But there's another side of these police sketches too, as when dealing with victims it's obviously incredibly sad, but when dealing with suspects, these off-putting identities can be outright horrifying. Over the years, there's been numerous unidentified killers who law enforcement were not able to positively identify, forcing them to turn to these same methods of sketching and recreating, with one of the darkest examples being that of the Lake Bodom killer. It was June 5th, 1960. 4 Finnish teenagers were on a camping trip to Lake Bodom, sleeping peacefully in their tent on the lakeshore, when suddenly they were attacked. It happened in an instant, as a man yielding a knife began stabbing through the tent, eventually bludgeoning the group with an unidentified blunt object. That night, 3 of the teens would be killed, while one managed to survive with substantial injuries.
Wait.
When asked about what he had seen that night,
think
the
I heard
lone
of this
survivor
story,
claimed
bro.
that the man who attacked them wore all black and had large red eyes. Based on his accounts and other potential sightings, a sketch of what this man may have looked like was made, and the results were unusual at best. With this man going on to garner the appropriate nickname of Bug Eyes McLip due to just how unnatural his facial features appear, especially his eyes. In fact, there's something unnatural about all of these recreations, which begs the question, did any of them actually work? Well, surprisingly, out of these 4 people, 3 have been identified. Christy Crystal Creek would go on to be identified as Janet Lee Lucas, a 23-year-old who would be the last identified victim of serial killer Wayne Nance, with this identification being the result of improved forensic genealogy.
Okay, that's
The
it.
second and most notorious example would go on to be
Okay.
identified as Jenny Gomez, who had been strangled by Steven Zilich, a man dubbed the Wisconsin Suitcase Murderer. And despite this recreation appearing to look nothing like Jenny, it was actually the sole reason that she was identified, as one of her family members ended up recognizing these overpronounced cheekbones and matching them to Jenny.
Wow.
And then there was Septic Tank Sam, who was revealed to be Gordon Edwin Sanderson, thanks again to genetic genealogy, as a sample of his sister's DNA was eventually used to prove that this was in fact him, though it's still unknown who killed him or why. Which leaves just this final person, the killer of at least 3 people. He, unfortunately, has never been identified, and this isn't too surprising as the features of this person just seem impossible. He just looks far too strange to be real. Right? Well, even though he hasn't been positively ID'd, it doesn't mean that he hasn't been potentially photographed. Shortly after the teens were murdered, a funeral was held in their remembrance, for which a large crowd of locals were in attendance, with this photo of the crowd being snapped. And standing there, in the center of it all, was a man whose features looked impossible. This man would never be photographed again, and his connection to the case has never been officially confirmed, leaving these murders unsolved to this very day.
Bro, I just got the chills. Whoa. Whoa, man. Okay, guys, well, that was the end of the video. Okay, that was the internet's darkest corners. Let me know if you guys enjoyed that video, and if you guys want to see more scary videos like this, because apparently you guys do like them, okay?